Testing. 1 2 3 1 2 3. Let me know if you can hear me. Happy Monday. Happy Monday. I usually do the Man Up Show with the Judge Monday night, but we're going to do the show earlier today. I see the judge backstage because I'm going on vacation tomorrow. Yes, I'm flying out of town. Yes, I am. So yeah. So what you might see me do on vacation is just do lives, but I'm taking a week off, point blank. But we have a good show. Honey, I got to start off this show. Deion, cancer free. And in a minute, I'm about to pull up content that's going to be anti Trump because don't you ever try to come out your mouth talking about you going to try and prosecute Beyonce. Bitch, are you stupid? Are you dumb? Trump, are you dumb? I'm going to get to that in about 2 minutes. And also, we got to talk about the Cincinnati Brawl. What's going on in Cincinnati, Ohio, honey? Y'all be having stuff lit and not for all the right reasons. And then I also want to mention about that white only town. Black people, if you got a problem with that, you are a hypocrite. You are a hypocrite. And Al-Sharpton, going hard for the immigrants and trying to defend, saying that they're being treated like Jim Crow laws, all that other mess, whatever, whatever. So yeah. Let me see something for a second. Judge, you're lopsided. You got to turn it the other way.
That's the way I always turn it.
No, you got to turn it is sideways.
Well, I'm looking at my reference line, which is a molding on the wall, and
Turn the phone.
it's perfectly parallel to the molding on the wall, which is how I usually sit it. I don't know, maybe I should sit up straight. Okay.
No, you need to turn the phone because anyway, Deion Sanders did a press conference. He is cancer free. And what I really appreciate about Deion is he is informing people, especially men and especially men of color, but all men, to go get yourself tested, screened, go to your annually primary visits is very important. So he did a press conference. He is fine. He is looking forward to the football season, and it is what it is. So shout out to Deion Sanders and best of luck. However, why is Carucci in a hospital with Deion? I don't understand this.
So yeah, we are here to fully remove the bladder.
Texting the boys. It's their first day of practice today, and I'm excited. This is kind of the first day that.
So yeah, like who knew? Are they dating? I don't know, but who knew? And of course, people hating like, oh, she does get around, blah 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 blah. But he got him a little young thing. All right. Well, shout out to Deion Sanders. So I just want to acknowledge that. Oh, one more thing. He did acknowledge this was during the press conference today.
Let me tell you something. Randy Moss called me every other day to make sure I was straight. Randy Moss prayed for me. He and his wife told me what I need to be doing. He's gone through some things very similar, but Randy Moss, man, I love him to life, love him more than ever. I prayed, he told me he's going to come to the game this year. I prayed that, but he gave me so much strength and so much guidance and so much love, respect, and appreciation. Thank you, Randy. I really appreciate you. I really do.
Yeah, because Randy Moss, he was diagnosed with cancer. I think it was liver cancer, and I think he's recovering as well. I don't know if he's cancer free, but having supportive family and friends is very important. And a lot of people don't share their cancer diagnosis because it's nobody's business. But when he, went through all of the medical surgery, the treatments and stuff like that, he did a press conference today. He's looking forward to the football season, and he is definitely, he came out really to inform the public. Always stay on top of your health, and then make sure you get checked annually. So yeah, so shout out to Deion. All right, so real quick, I need to go into this because, and then Judge, let me say what I got to say, and then I'm gonna come to you. Keep Beyonce name out your MF mouth, Trump. Please don't try to come for Beyonce. Don't try to come for the Beehive, because you will get slaughtered. You will get slaughtered. Leave this woman alone. She has helped the economy in every single city that she touched down this summer during Cowboy Carter tour. Carter tour ended this Sunday in Las Vegas. She increased their economy by over 5%. Hiring jobs, letting people make money, but she does that in every single city. But all of a sudden, Trump has time today to go on Truth Social to talk mess about Beyonce. I don't give a damn about Oprah. I don't give a damn about Kamala. I don't give a damn about Al-Sharpton. Keep Beyonce name out your mouth. So this is what he posted on Truth Social. He says, I'm looking at the large amount of money owed by the Democrats after the presidential election, and the fact that they admit to paying probably illegally $11 million to singer Beyonce for an endorsement. She never sang not one note and left the stage to a booing and angry audience. $3 million for expensive to Oprah. $600,000 to very low-rated TV anchor Al-Sharpton, a total lightweight, and others to be named for doing absolutely nothing. These ridiculous fees were incorrectly stated in the books and records. You are not allowed to pay for an endorsement. It is totally illegal to do so. Can you imagine what would happen if politicians started paying for people to endorse them? All hell would break out. Kamala and all of those that received endorsement money broke the law. They should all be prosecuted. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Well, let me bring this to your attention. If you try to send Beyonce any type of prosecution legal papers, when you talk about a resurrection, whatever courthouse this may go to, it's going to be one there. Keep her name out your mouth. You're putting her life in danger because he is the president, and you got fanatic MAGA people that's going to try to put a target on her. And she did not do anything wrong. However, you know why he's upset? Because this is the same person Beyonce sent his ass a cease and desist last year because he wanted to use her track Freedom off of Lemonade for his presidential campaign without her permission. He did use it without her permission. Her legal people sent him a cease and desist, tell him knock it the F off. She let Kamala Harris use that song, and she made millions off that. So Kamala didn't have to pay her millions to endorse her. She didn't get paid anything, but she did get paid to let Kamala use her song. That's where the millions come from. The same millions that your ass would have paid for if she would have gave you permission, but she sent your ass a cease and desist. So I think he needs to slow it the fuck down, keep Beyonce name all out of his mouth because he don't want the heat from the Beehive. You want to say something, Judge?
The law is the law. What you read is a correct statement of the law. And if it was for purposes of use of the song. It should have been reported as such. It was not. So it's not my position that anyone is above the law.
No, what using somebody's music is not part of campaign. It's not part of. It's not endorsing them. So
Yes, it is. She endorsed him. You played it on the show one time where she got up and did that, endorsed Kamala. And under the law, I wondered about it at the time. I said, you know, if Kamala doesn't win, somebody's going to prosecute whoever is involved, including appropriately the Democratic Party, for campaign violations. You cannot do that. That is, by the definitions and the applicable law, being paid to endorse.
but she was
Now,
not.
well, that's, will the grand jury find probable cause or not? That's the thing, and they can pursue it in any grand jury in the country that is federal, and I think there are a few thousand of those. Well, let's put not maybe a
Beyonce
few
never
thousand,
received
but
Beyonce management, Beyonce production company, Beyonce herself never received money from Kamala Harris to endorse.
well, it's from the Democratic Party. But
No,
anyway,
he
that's
never
allegations
received
from the
money to
well, it's
endorse.
not.
He
You know,
is accusing that. He's
I don't
accusing
care
her of doing that.
one way or another. There are 10 judicial circuits, and the minimum number of federal judges districts in those, I think, is about 2 per. No, not 2. 10 times. That's at least. That's more than 100 districts wherein grand juries can be convened to investigate whether or not there is the commission of a federal crime. So if some enterprising U.S. attorney convenes a grand jury and makes a presentation sufficient to establish probable cause, and you heard this last week, which is not beyond a reasonable doubt, it's just more likely than not, then she's got same kind of situation Diddy does. She will not for the same charge, but she'll have to
you
stand
on way
charged.
down that yellow brick road, because he actually paid the Village people to use their song, but he did it. But that's what you're supposed to do if you're going to use people music. Kid Rock got up there and endorsed him. Did Kid Rock?
Yeah, but he didn't get paid for it.
And neither did Beyonce.
Well, the problem is they didn't report it as the use of royalties, which if it was a royalty,
How do you know?
that's what the problem is.
No, that's not. No.
Look, it's
No,
public
he's not
record.
accusing her about the music.
Look,
He's accusing her about
no, that's
endorsing.
not, you miss a point. If it had been for the music, it would have been okay, but it was not reported as a royalty payment. So
How do you know?
It's public record. If you want to find that, look.
No.
Look, excuse me. If
FCC,
you want to find out,
no. This is. I went through the records, the FCC election records of how much money went out. Kamala Harris spent $1 billion, and it lists all of the people who got money from her campaign. Oprah, Al-Sharpton, Beyonce was not on that list. Her production company was not on that list. When you are using somebody's music, that you have to pay the record company for those rights. Not directly.
You want to find out, just go to the public records, or you can go to followthemoney.org.
Go to the public records and you won't see Beyonce there.
Who and what reported was reported. Now, that's simple enough. We're arguing over something that can be only resolved by looking it up. If one of the members of the current Department of Justice, one of the appointed U.S. attorneys in one of the various and sundry districts in the United States decides to present it to a grand jury and probable cause is returned, she'll have to stand trial.
Yeah. And so if she stands trial and then it comes out that this man lied, then she's going to come after his ass.
She can't. He's immune. He's immune.
No, but he's not going to be immune forever.
She can't come after him after.
Yes, she can.
Look.
Yes,
The
she
bottom
can.
line is if a grand jury indicts, that removes the whole trail record for false arrest because the charges are brought by the independent and immune grand jury, so you can't touch anybody. If he asks his Justice Department to make a presentation to a local grand jury or in a given district, and the grand jury returns, nobody's liable, and you can't find the grand jury liable. They are immune.
Yeah, and so now you can mute up for a second, because here's the thing. See, this snippet here is my commentary. No, wait. Because you want to throw Beyonce name in it. Again, I don't care about the Al-Sharptons. I don't care about the Kamala Harris or the Oprahs. Deal with them. But when you're dealing with Beyonce and she has the Beehive, and Beehive is made up of independents, Democrat, Republicans, and whoever else, don't come for Beyonce, because your reputation is going to be tarnished. This is a distraction because everybody's asking him about Epstein. He's all the way in Scotland being asked about Epstein. He want to put out the MLK files last year that nobody cares about. Nobody even cares about this. But because
why wouldn't you care more about the MLK situation, since it was a government-sponsored assassination?
Why would I not?
Well, why wouldn't you be more concerned, since the government being in the business of, say, the former Soviet government or the Chinese government to assassinate its citizens? That should be much more concerned.
You said we
Beyonce is irrelevant.
You said we should not, and I have that.
I said we should be.
No, you said we did the show last week, Judge.
I know, but I said on the show, I said people should be more concerned. Well, I implied.
No, you didn't say that.
Be more concerned about a governmental entity engaging in the assassination of American citizens. That's important.
But you
that's what it's all about.
You didn't say that.
I did. I never said
that
what happened. What I said was you'll never know who did it, but you can know the whys and wherefores behind it. The report that they released, not one shred of that report has any inference on who did it or goes anywhere outside of the narrative that James Earl Ray did it, except some whack job speculation.
So
I mean, it doesn't say anything one way or the other.
Keep Beyonce name.
What makes her so important?
I said, listen, I'm about to mute you. I said, this is my commentary.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
No.
Keep Beyonce name. This is for Trump. Keep Beyonce name out your mouth. You do not want it with the Beehive. You don't. And listen, Beyonce probably not going. She's not going to even respond to him because it makes no sense, and he is irrelevant in our world.
He's not irrelevant.
I said this is my commentary. If you want to talk about Trump, you can talk about Trump on somebody else's show. He's irrelevant in our world, the world of the Beehive, the world of Beyonce. Keep her name out your mouth, because your reputation is already kind of being dragged and sullied, your brand, with this Epstein. So now you want heat from the Beehive, which is going to put more heat on the Epstein. Leave Beyonce off of anything that you want to insinuate with the Democrat Party. Just stop. Just stop.
I don't recall her having.
All right, Judge, I'm about to move on to the next topic, because I already said, like, I don't need you to finish the commentary. You want to stick up for Trump, that's your business. But right about now, yes, this is my commentary when it comes to Beyonce. This is my thing. You said what you had to say. You said what you had to say. All right, so what was the next thing I want to get into? Speaking of this report.
By the way, I do think they need to get Al-Sharpton and the rest of the bunch there, Oprah too, for taking what is essentially a bribe to give an endorsement.
Well, that's what I want to play here.
Second-rate news. Is he a news anchor? I never could figure out what he was doing.
All right, so this here is Al-Sharpton responding to Trump claims with the VP Kamala Harris paid endorsement.
Good to see you. We have a couple questions for you on this, but let's just start simply with the accusation that President Trump has leveled at you, were you paid for an endorsement?
Well, absolutely not. And as the FEC filings say, they helped the campaign, gave funds for Get Out the Vote campaigns for National Action Network, of which I'm a part of, and other civil rights groups, some which got more than National Action Network did. National Action Network, nor I, even endorsed her. What is interesting about this, though, is that the fact that this is as you accurately reported, second or third time, lawyers for National Action Network was looking at, can we sue him for defamation? Because he had knowledge this time that there was no endorsement and that I didn't get any money. This went to the nonprofit that I'm connected to. But let's look at the larger picture here. Donald Trump is in very serious problems around this whole question of Epstein. So last week, he was trying to flood the zone to take any pressure off of him and try to put his MAGA base back together again. The fact is, he started by saying he's going to fire the Fed chief. That didn't work. Then he went on to something about tariffs. That didn't work. Then he decided to do what he started his political career on, start race baiting. Which was, he started with birtherism, that Obama wasn't born here. Then he went and released the files now last week of Martin Luther King Jr., some of which are very questionable, and the family was opposed to him doing it. That didn't work. The next day he goes after Barack Obama, saying he ought to be prosecuted. That didn't work. Then he tried something else. Then over the weekend, Kamala Harris, Oprah Winfrey, Beyonce, Al-Sharpton. The race card, the thread here is race, and that's what he's trying to do. They're swapping money. They're doing things like Obama was holding back with Russia. It's all about trying to get past Epstein. We have shown in National Action Network and other groups what we did and didn't do in the campaign. Even when I spoke at the convention, I said we don't endorse candidates. We have come with our files. Release the Epstein files, Mr. Trump. Do what we did, or be quiet.
Yeah, you're certainly.
That's just obfuscation. The Epstein thing I've explained as to probably why it's not being released right now. Next thing, you have to demonstrate what you did. So where did the money go and what was it for? Did you go do mailings? Did you put up billboards that you had to be reimbursed for? Was this not for endorsement, for payment of campaign workers, which is illegal? And by the way, talking about race baiting, Al Sharpton's whole career is based on that. Let's talk about Tawana Briley, is it? 30-some years ago. And then we go on with that with his continuous race baiting, not saying that there are not racial problems. So question is, what did you do to earn the money? And it's a matter of filing, and it's a matter, dude, of it's not Trump. He's completely immune. He's doing his job as head of the executive branch, which also includes the Department of Justice. So he's over the Attorney General. And the Attorney General may, in discussion with her subordinates, decide that there is probable cause to submit to a grand jury. If they submit it to a grand jury, they aren't liable for doing that. There's no liability. That's sovereign immunity because it's straight within the parameters of the office of a U.S. attorney or his prosecutor. Now, next thing, if a grand jury returns an indictment under American law, there is no liability for false prosecution. And the grand jury is immune. So you're stuck and you just have to answer unless somebody works something out. So I don't know. You're presumed innocent until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, but there might be probable cause shown. And it does sound like there is.
Good to see you. We have a.
So, I mean, it'll be up to other factors. And see, that's a misstatement alone. We have too many problems now because the press isn't pushing back and saying that's not what the law says.
So I want to play this clip here because this is during the Al Sharpton show talking about the civil rights complaint against DHS.
Now to our next topic, one of the largest and oldest Latino rights countries in the U.S. has
Countries?
filed a formal complaint with the.
He can't even speak. That's not what's going on. It's organizations, not countries. What's the matter with him?
Now to our next topic. One of the largest and oldest Latino rights countries in the U.S. has filed a formal complaint with the Department of Homeland Security over its mass deportation policies. The complaint was filed Thursday by the League of United Latin American Citizens on behalf of 27-year-old Adrian Ringel, a legal U.S. resident, they say, was wrongfully removed from the country without due process and sent to the CCOT prison in El Salvador. He has now been sent to his native Venezuela in a prisoner swap. Joining me now is the CEO of the organization filing the claim, Juan Proano of LULAC. Juan, thank you for being with us. What can you tell us about the complaint you filed against DHS, and what are you seeking?
Oh, it's good to see you again, Reverend Sharpton. It's a civil rights complaint. You know, we believe that his rights were violated. He was detained without a warrant, without an arrest, simply walking outside from his apartment to the parking lot, getting into his car to go to work on the day of his birthday. Within 72 hours, he found himself in Venezuela, in CCOT. He spoke with the immigration officers. They gave him a document to sign, telling him he had two choices: to be deported back to his home country or to see a judge. He asked to see a judge. He was never given that option. When he was put on a plane, he was told that he was going back to his home country, along with 250 other Venezuelan men. They kept the blinds up so they couldn't see where they were going. And it wasn't until he landed that he knew that he was in San Salvador, seeing other men being deplaned and being beaten as they were coming off the plane themselves. He spent 4 months in Venezuela. Significant trauma, physical trauma, psychological trauma, and we've heard even worse cases of sexual violence and even rape happening at that detention center.
Now, as we mentioned, Adrian Ringel was in this country legally. He was sent to prison in El Salvador. Now he's back in Venezuela, all against his will. Why did your organization choose to focus on his case, and what is his situation right now?
So he's back home. He's with his mother, he's with his family, and he has a young daughter there. There's a larger case happening with Abrego Garcia. A lot of the attention was focused on him, but within that case, there were 250 other men that were deported illegally. The judge basically said to turn the planes around, to not deplane these individuals. And so Adriano was one of the first that reached out to us. We've been working with him and his family for over 4 months to get to this point. And, he really is the epitome of what these immigrants, do in order to get to this country. He was a law-abiding citizen. He was a barber by trade, if you will. He was sending money back to his family and to his daughter at home. And so, we really feel it's symbolic. We have to fight for his civil rights.
Real quick.
Anybody that's charged with anything is presumed innocent until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt.
Can you hear me?
If he's an American citizen, he's entitled to his due process of law. If this was wrong thing, then perhaps they can pursue some sort of action. I would assume that the President of the United States, as per the usual procedure, is not involved in the day-to-day operations of whomever Homeland Security or various other federal law enforcement agencies arrest on a day-to-day basis.
You can hear me?
Yes, I hear you.
So the reason why I paused it right here, if you want, because I didn't know if you wanted to say something.
Well, I was. Did you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, and it's about 4 more minutes that I wanted to play as well. So,
well, I mean, it's just a thing. All this is frou-frou nonsense. This is just, it's unfortunate such stuff happens, but trying to connect it to the White House directly that's remote because the president does not get involved in the day-to-day operations of what the local office of a federal law enforcement agency may or may not do when its agents go out and intend to enforce the law or ensure the public safety. So this attempt by Sharpton to try to lay it at his feet is not going to work. And then what the judge does will be subject to an appellate process to the District Court of Appeals and then perhaps to the United States. And we saw a district court judge's ruling that resulted in Trump meeting with a certain president of a South American country. And the South American president said he didn't have the authority under his law to order the guy sent back. Trump doesn't have jurisdiction to order him back. But on a prisoner exchange or an honoring of an extradition treaty, they sent the guy back because he got indicted on multiple felony counts. So we don't know how this is going to work out.
All right, I want to finish playing the rest of it.
We have to fight this claim because there are many more like it that are certainly to follow.
Now, flush with cash from the big, beautiful bill, Trump's FEMA is sending more than $600 million to states to build immigration detention centers like the so-called alligator Alcatraz in Florida. Meanwhile, Trump has also signed an executive order on Thursday to push cities and states to remove homeless people off the streets and into treatment centers. It seems as if a new mass incarceration complex is springing up in front of our eyes. How do we protect civil liberties in this climate?
Oh, Reverend Sharpton, thank you so much for bringing that up. They've allocated $160 billion to immigration enforcement. DHS is now the second largest federal agency, only behind the military. They've allocated $8 billion, almost $8 billion to surveillance and monitoring, being able to access data from the DHS, from the Social Security, from IRS and HHS. The use of technology and AI will allow them to basically pinpoint almost anyone in this country. That's a sliding scale here that can impact not just the civil liberties of Latinos, immigrants across the country, and even Americans as well. It's something that we have to pay very, very close attention to. The fact that FEMA's allocating $600 million, well, you know what? Alligator Alcatraz costs $500 million, and there are no physical walls. It's literally a tent in the Everglades. It is ill-suited to house 3,000, 4,000, or 5,000 immigrants. It is set up essentially to be intolerable, and we will be keeping a very close eye on what happens there in the weeks and the months to come, especially when hurricane season comes, because we already know that it's been flooding.
Now, on Friday, a federal judge blocked the Trump administration from ending birthright citizenship for those born in the U.S. to parents who are in the country illegally. States have argued Trump's birthright citizenship order is blatantly unconstitutional. What's your organization, LULAC, doing to prevent the administration from pushing further on this issue?
Reverend Sharpton, we filed the first lawsuit on birthright citizenship. We filed it at 11 p.m. on January 20th to fight for the rights of not just Latino immigrants, but all immigrants in the United States. He's looking to reinterpret a constitutional amendment because he doesn't want to have to actually go through the process to actually get it changed in our Constitution. Everyone has this right. He's saying it goes back to slavery and it was only meant for Black slaves, but we know that that's not true. In the ARC case, for example, it was for Japanese almost 40 years after slavery ended in the United States. He wants to take this right from everyone. And so if you're in a mixed status family, for example, if you're a U.S. citizen here, he wants to basically take that right away. And so we're going to continue to fight him. We oppose this interpretation of it. We're happy that the courts have actually really stood up for birthright citizenship, and we hope that it will stay and it will be a nationwide injunction.
Stop. That's completely false. It was written exclusively for the benefit of former slaves and also for Native Americans. It's not 40 years after. The Japanese problem occurred in 1942, which is 42 years from the beginning of the 20th century and 35 years after the Civil War, which is 77 years. So that is a misstatement of fact. Next bloody doggone thing is it's not the first time this series of amendments, 13, 14, 15, has been changed to something it was not intended to address. The 15th Amendment has been mostly used in American history, not for the benefit of former slaves, but for the benefit of the fictional person known as a corporation, so that corporations are held to have the same rights and privileges as real people. Now, that's the same kind of thing. So whether or not this has been declared to be totally wrong is up in the air. And the president, unlike the inference here, just can't say, I decide I'm going to send out a constitutional amendment to the states, 2/3 of which have to approve it. It doesn't go that way. So that is a misstatement of fact. That is a misstatement of law. And again, what they might all want to do is say, hey, why don't we all stand behind requiring that we have legal immigration, because most of the people that are being addressed went through the legal ins and outs of becoming American citizens. Nothing wrong with that. People don't have any problem with that. Well, maybe a few, but the point is you break the law and it's not. Now, the amount of money is minuscule. Memphis has already committed $700 million of city money to converting a football arena stadium known as the Liberty Bowl into a soccer arena. So it's all relative when you get to talking about money. And see, 60 years ago, there was a guy named Everett Dirksen, and he said $1 million is chump change, 10 million is a pittance. You don't start talking real money until you start getting into the tens and hundreds of millions of dollars. And then you have to move on into billions before you get into significant money. So in terms of the budget and the income of the United States through receipts from tariff assessments, income tax, and other things, the income is in the trillions of dollars, and we're talking about effectively Trump change. You can't even buy a large size weapons delivery system for the Air Force for the amount of money they're talking. A B-2 bomber cost almost $2 billion. So we're not even talking about one airplane. And then see, this song will change when the buildings start getting blown up, oil refineries start getting wrecked, power exchanges and lines get brought down by the pre-implanted explosives that Al-Qaeda, ISIS, Hamas, Iran, People's Republic of China have been implanting since people can walk right across the border unmolested with military-grade explosives, detonation devices, setups, courtesy of the Biden administration, or at least they could. So the song.
I want to add to, because I would say this: people voted for Trump to deport the illegals. That's why. So this money, this millions and billions of dollars being sent to the ICE department or DHS, yes, because that's what we voted for, to deport people who came here illegally, especially the people who just came here in the past 4 years. So this is what the people voted for. So, and it's funny because, you know, this organization is a lot of them. They're coming out defending, supporting, and protecting illegals and immigrants or whatever. But, you know, that's your problem. That's a situation that you have to deal with, because these same organizations, all right, he just stepped away for a second. So these same organizations, I've never heard of them or seen them have this same type of concern or energy for Black Americans, Native Americans, Asian Americans. None of that. So now you want the American people to have concern, for your group of people. You're not going to get that because we voted to get them up out of here and stop abusing our laws, our resources, and our system. Something else I wanted to. You're muted. You're muted. I can't hear you, Judge.
The Trump administration is carrying out its promised policies, and that's what they got for the mandate. So they're just doing what they promised to do.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, what's the problem? And the other thing here, Sharpton, you're a hypocrite because you're supposed to be super Black, but you're sitting here supporting policies that deprive so many Black folk of job opportunities, educational opportunities, health access. And this thing you have a problem with homelessness. I know Maxine Waters has one of the worst homeless problems in the nation in her congressional district, but she doesn't do anything about it. So maybe it's time somebody in the White House said, we have too many Americans living out there in the cold, unappreciated, unlooked after. It's time that we did something with our control of the federal purse strings to influence the states to take some action. So places like California that have the worst homeless problem in the country do something about these American citizens. You need to
bring your phone up because it's cutting off your face.
Okay.
Bring it slightly up.
Okay.
Up.
Yeah. So what's going on is the American public is getting
no. You have to bring it up. Your eyes. We can't even see your eyes.
Well, I was looking at another picture where it was my face was in the center of the screen. Anyway. See, there are too many Americans that are suffering, and nobody is dealing with them. There are veterans out there, people who have some real bad problems, healthcare situations that have been just disastrously destroyed because of Obamacare, and you have needs that are ignored. You have this agenda to support the rainbow cult and all of these fringe elements, special interest, but nobody's taking care of the fundamental business of dealing with the day-to-day welfare of American citizens. So it's time somebody did something about them. Sharpton, Reverend, what about the other people that have been long neglected? You want them to stay at the back of the line where they've been for so long, according to what you used to preach about? Last hired, first fired, and this last served. And they're way in the back of the line, and you want to bring somebody in with no connections to the United States and jump them to the front of the line. If that isn't hypocrisy. Now, I'm not against anybody from South America, Mexico, or Central America coming here. Just do it the right way. That's like driving a motor vehicle. It's one thing if you've got a valid driver's license. It's another one where, like some people I had to deal with, they've never had a driver's license and been cited, one case 37 times, another one 48 times for driving without having valid driver's privileges. So people are endangered. There are consequences to saying nothing should be regulated. It doesn't work.
All right, so let's see.
Couple questions.
Wasn't that? Oh, I want to play. So this is the main topic, is the Cincinnati Brawl. I don't know because I know you watch the news here and there, whatever, but have you heard about the street brawl that happened in Cincinnati, Ohio over the weekend?
Vaguely, it's just part of the general background breakdown in law and order.
All right, so I want to play this news clip because it sums it up, and we could talk about it.
New on WWT, viral video shows a fight break out in the middle of the street in downtown Cincinnati. And police chief, state leaders now releasing harsh words for those involved, including the ones who recorded the video instead of jumping in to help or even dialing 911. News 5's Sean McKinnon joining us live outside District 1 headquarters with what we know about the investigation into that video, Sean.
Yeah, Councilmember Mark Jeffrey said this fight happened at 3 a.m. today. We've got new video tonight as police piece together exactly how and why this started, and state lawmakers take notice. A massive fight between more than a dozen people in the middle of the street. 62. At 4th and Elm, just a block uphill from Paycor Stadium. Videos posted online show punches and kicks being thrown, continuing after a man is knocked to the ground. As the fight goes on, videos show a man punching a woman, knocking her unconscious. Chief Teresa Thigi called it a sudden dispute between individuals following a verbal altercation, saying, "I am in complete disgust waking up to the viral video many of you have now seen. The behavior displayed is nothing short of cruel and absolutely unacceptable. Our investigative team is working diligently to identify every individual involved in causing harm." The fight spreading on social media. State lawmaker Cecil Thomas, who represents parts of Cincinnati, saying it's unacceptable under any standard, and those involved should be prosecuted to the full extent of the law. Therefore, as your state representative, I trust that there will be a full and complete investigation of this incident by the Cincinnati Police Department and to bring charges against all involved. And the president of the union representing officers calling the violence disgusting, saying what's equally disgusting is those who chose to watch and record instead of calling 911, attempting to defuse the situation or render aid. I have full faith in the Central Business Section investigators. They will make arrests in the near future. It will then be the responsibility of the court system to hold these violent thugs accountable. And thousands of people attended Cincinnati Music Fest last night. The chief of police said this fight is not connected to Cincy Music Fest in any way. Police have not announced any arrests yet. Live outside District 1 headquarters, Sean McKinnon, WLWT News 5.
Okay. This is going on. Did anybody contemplate when it was happening the long-term impact of the BLM fracasses that were going on around the country, the billions of dollars in property that was destroyed by arson, the huge loss of business, loss of life, injuries that were suffered by sundry and many that were promoted by a certain political party when they tried to encourage this stuff. And then we find out that the righteous cause had devolved into some hustlers getting the funding to buy mansions and estates in Los Angeles at very high prices, hire relatives and friends. So, yeah, what do you expect when you say it's okay and you start encouraging it? And you have Maxine Waters, Cory Booker's and such like going around the country saying that people should deface cars and break windows in businesses if the wrong political or campaign posters are exhibited. What do you expect is going to happen when we glorify this dysfunction through our entertainment media? So it's a natural consequence. You tell people it's okay, it's okay, it's okay. This is the way to be hip. This is the way to be cool. This is the way to do what you, and how you do it, it takes.
So JD Vance, he was in Ohio today, and the reporter asked him, about it. And I want to play what he had to say. And his brother, half brother, is actually running, I believe, for mayor of Cincinnati, Ohio. But this is what JD Vance had to say.
There was a group of people who attacked a couple folks on the street in Cincinnati. Senator Bernie Moreno, some others have spoken out about it, have been critical of it.
Okay, yes. So what I saw, and I haven't seen the full context, but what I saw is a mob of lawless thugs beating up on an innocent person, and it's disgusting. And I hope every single one of those people who engage in violence is prosecuted to the full extent of the law. And they will be. They will be so long as law enforcement in the state of Ohio takes their job seriously. I know Dave Yost cares a lot about these things. But yeah, I actually, you're right. Bernie did send me a clip of this, and we talked a little bit about it. I don't know the full context. I don't know how the fight started. But the one part that I saw that was really gruesome is you had a grown man who sucker punched a middle-aged woman. And where I come from, at least, when you have a grown man who sucker punches a middle-aged woman, that person ought to go to jail for a very long time. And frankly, he's lucky there weren't some better people around, because they would have handled it themselves. But if they're not going to handle it, the cops in Cincinnati, the law enforcement, you've got to prosecute people. We've had way too much lawlessness on the streets of great American cities. How many of you all have wanted to go to downtown Akron or downtown Canton or downtown Columbus for a meal, but you're worried because the local authorities in these big cities have allowed lawlessness to run wild? We have got to make great American cities safe again for families and children. If you want to take your wife or your children out for a meal, you shouldn't be worried about street violence. And the only way to destroy that street violence is to take the thugs who engage in that violence and throw their asses in prison.
Well said. But you know something? See, it starts insidiously. What did we hear from the chief of police? This started over, quote, a verbal altercation, unquote. Look up altercation and see what it means. So you start diffusing the term, which infers something very harsh is going on, and you hook it up with people having an argument. So you inure them to the sense of a real altercation developed. When you have an altercation, you have fists thrown, grapplings occur, people get kicked, punched, that kind of thing. And then they say, well, you can argue in a heated fashion, that becomes an altercation. It's not. But that misuse of terminology starts spreading even to people who ought to know better. So we get inured to the idea of altercation. And when the reality escapes us, we start putting in that what a real altercation is. That becomes acceptable, and this law and order breakdown occurs. Now, I'm assuming from what the context is, this occurred this weekend, but you can't always be sure. Remember last week when they had that thing about the motorist in Florida, according to Ben Crump, getting racistly mistreated? And then when we see all of the video on it, and in fact, I think you were on a moot grand jury about it. When you see the whole video, it doesn't look like it was in the media or as it was presented in the media. Additionally, we don't hear that this took place in March, not just a few days before. And we don't hear that the person is hollering about his rights were violated, having already pled guilty to resisting arrest. And what was it? Driving on a suspended license and failing to have adequate insurance for his vehicle. And what did we see when we saw the complete set of video? He jumps out the car. The cop says, sir, may I see your license, registration, and proof of insurance? And the guy jumps back in the car, slams the door, and locks it. And then call your supervisor. We wind up seeing the supervisor standing to the right side of the car, and he's saying, what happened? Well, you're going to have to come on out. And the supervisor tells the other cop, the first on the scene, break the window, because he's warned him 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 times, sir, you're going to have to step out of the vehicle. So you can't have law enforcement where you have to beg someone and persuade them to follow the law or the orders. You know,
here's the thing too that I noticed, because other people were saying there were a lot of people standing around filming it with their cameras, and it's like we have a big trend, of people doing that now. Like, that's what society has come to. When you see something like this happens, everybody is filming it instead of trying to diffuse or call the cops. No one didn't call the cops because they were filming it. Now, and then people are inserting race into it because it was, I guess it was an altercation with some verbal words between this white man and a black guy, and people were standing around them. We don't know what was said, but the white guy smacked the black guy first, and then this other guy came in, and that's when the fight started. But nobody tried to break it up. No one didn't call the cops. That's when everybody put out their phones. And I believe the woman, the middle-aged white woman that was knocked out, I don't know, maybe she was with the white guy because she jumped in, I guess, trying to help defend. And I'm sorry, as a woman, you don't jump in a fight with a whole bunch of men. But the black guy knocked her out, and so, which was uncalled for. But see, sometimes, I guess with black people in this type of situation, if you're arguing with a white person or other, then it becomes, a race thing with the racial historical thing we have in this country. But when you touch somebody, you need to expect what's going to happen next. Like, keep your hands to yourself. But at the same time, it's like, you smacked that man first. And then somebody came in and whooped your ass, and then he got jumped. So yeah, everybody is going to have charges pressed against them. And I just look at it, this may sound simple, but it should have been between two men. Even after the hit, the fight should have been between two men, not a whole bunch of men and even some women jumping on one person. So now, when the cops go through all that page, go through all the films and stuff, and they're going to find out who each and every person was, you're going to get arrested. And it reminds you, remember I think it was last summer, 2 summers ago, with the Alabama Brawl.
Mm-hmm.
So they actually had charges, everyone, white, black, everybody, and some people had charges against them, some were dropped or whatever, but it's the same thing. And what did people do? They put out their cameras to record it instead of trying to defuse the situation. And I have a big problem with that. Like, this is what we do as a society.
Did you see the opposite thing that occurred at the Walmart a few days ago?
Was it a stabbing or shooting?
Stabbing.
Yeah.
White guy went crazy, started stabbing and cutting people in the Walmart. A former Marine who was a black guy pulled out his pistol, stopped him, didn't shoot him, but stopped him. And the rest of the bystanders wrestled him into submission until the police got there. See, that's a whole different order of business. But this group that Sharpton represents, in terms of his tone and attitude, they are totally against that. They, I guess, would rather have a tragedy occur so they can make a point than have somebody actually act like a responsible citizen. So this guy was a hero. He stopped it.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, too late to save quite a number of people from getting wounded, but he didn't bring out his cell phone. He brought out his firearm. And he took the chance on being prosecuted for that because something more important was at stake, the welfare of his fellow citizens. So I suppose that's a racial incident because it was black on white, but in reverse of the usual way it goes down,
Right. And that's what I'm saying. So again, we don't know why the two men were arguing. One was white, one was black, but that white guy hit that black guy, and then all the black people jumped in and jumped him. And to me, it's like, okay, why did all the black people jump the one guy? Why couldn't you just let the one guy fight him?
Yeah, in other words, yeah, I agree with you 100%.
Yeah. So
in other words, man on man, fist fight used to be the thing. People would just form a circle. Matter of fact, I was in Sydney, Australia, and I'd been there 3 days. The executive producer for the show I had was from Sydney, and we were walking with him through the red light district. So we get to this circle of constables, and what are they doing? They formed a circle, and one of them is refereeing a fist fight between two guys. And when they get through, they broke it up, and said, hey, we'll call the taxi. You won, you buy the beer. Everybody shake hands. So you see, there's that kind of difference in terms of manliness, masculinity, and this thing about toxic masculinity, emasculation. And the average male today, you know, like having a fist fight with somebody else one-on-one, that just never occurs to anybody. So what winds up happening is some people get to vent their frustration and aggression and do the same thing to somebody else. I guess that's two wrongs make the right or something like that. So they gang up, jump somebody, and instead of letting the two men battle it out. You know, it's just unmanly. But that's the new way.
Right. And the new way is a major problem. So listen, you know, it was unnecessary, but people gotta keep your hands to yourself. I don't care if you're a man, a woman, keep your hands to yourself. I don't know why that white man felt comfortable smacking a black guy. Maybe he thought that if something were to go down, it would be between them two. You know, who knows? But sometimes when you, especially if you're surrounded by black people and that happens, black people are going to get gaslit by that.
Yeah, and what is the old time way amongst white folk? Sir, you have insulted me. You take your glove or your gauntlet or your hand and slap the guy across the face. I challenge you to a duel. When your seconds met and arranged it so it was man on man. Or Legree, the town ain't big enough for both of us. High noon at the bar, you know, at Dodge City. So what happened to the man thing?
Right, because if you slap me, I'm slapping your back, or we're gonna be fighting. But you know, hopefully ain't a man slapping me because I can't beat a man. But you know, but still, like, just people need to keep their hands to themselves. But what I'm starting to see now in society is the adults are acting like they're retarded or like they're children.
Well, that's what happened with that traffic stop thing in Florida. The children are raised by parents in a very indulgent fashion. You don't give absolute orders to your children. Don't do that, boy. Girl, you better stop that. You have to persuade them. I don't feel like it. Well, please, you're upsetting mama because so on. See, and they get the idea that when they confront authority, they can talk their way out of it, or, well, nothing wrong with that, but they get the idea somebody's supposed to persuade them and nobody can tell me what to do. Yes, they can. And they've got the gun on the hip, the taser, and some other things.
Let me ask you this question, because if somebody slap you, because in Ohio is open carry, but if somebody slap you and you have a gun on you, can you shoot them in self-defense?
No, hell no. That's escalation of force way beyond. You'll get a homicide charge. Okay. See, in other words, to escalate the type of force, you have to be either very much physically overmatched, or there's a great age or infirmity problem in there, or there's a gender problem. It's a man against a woman. And see, some of this stuff that they have on entertainment venues about women being the physical equal of men, it just doesn't work that way. And see, women believe it and get in there and put themselves in situations where they get jacked up. It's like, why'd you do that? And see, I've been looking at Star Trek Generations. I was binging on it. And everything in there, the women are in charge, and they've got the women routinely beating up on the guys. I mean, where they're all out physical combat, but the women win. And I said, see, that's just not appropriate. It had in there about some brilliant, not quite sure what his gender or its gender is. He wants special pronouns. They've got at least 2 couples into the rainbow thing in there. And they've got men lip kissing and passionately kissing each other, and women doing that with each other, and then this pronoun thing, and then the women just whip ass all over the place. And it's like, what kind of message is that to send to society? It doesn't work
Well, I have
that
another
way.
question. So what if, like, if it's a man or a woman and that man smacks a woman, they don't know each other, you know, like this incident, he smacks a woman, she just defends herself and tries to, you know, hit him back or whatever, but of course he's a man, so he's overpowering her. And let's say he starts whooping on her ass and she pulls out her gun to shoot because she's getting plummeted. Is that just
Well, no, here's what the thing. Before you can use deadly force, you have to be in jeopardy of suffering serious bodily harm or serious bodily injury, however you word it, or death. So if what the person's doing to you is not reasonably likely to produce your death or injury associated with trying to kill you, you're not entitled to use deadly force. You can only use deadly force to resist an attack where you have a reasonable belief that you are about to suffer death or very serious injury. Just getting a bloody nose or a busted lip is not sufficient to kill somebody. You take that and you sue them for damages.
Okay. And in this Cincinnati case, the white guy who slapped the black guy first, but the white guy ended up getting jumped. Can he sue those people that jumped him, or will the judge say no because you actually hit the guy first?
It becomes what in law is known as a common affray, AFFRAY. In other words, humanity, when it gathers in a bar, club, pub, or whatever it may be, out in the woods, it may develop that men start having a non-lethal combat with each other. It's called an affray or an affray. Now, there are civil damages, but it's not viewed as a serious thing. See, I grew up watching grown men have fist fights on the sidewalk.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
the police would come
days are
find
long
out
gone.
what's happening. Yeah, and shoo everybody off, you know.
Yeah. All right.
By the way, it isn't just like they say in the movies. Everybody's heard of the gunfight at the OK Corral, right? Wyatt Earp, Doc Holliday, Bat Masterson, that crew met up. They had to shoot out in the corral, the OK Corral, where they had the stables. Do you know all of the famous people that we know from the movies? They got prosecuted for murder. They had to stand trial. Wyatt Earp was prosecuted for homicide, but he got acquitted by a jury. Doc Holliday got prosecuted for that same thing, but he got acquitted.
I want to do this one last story because, you know, it's not a long show today because I have to prepare to leave. So white town only, right? And let me just say this. I don't have a problem with it, but I'm going to explain why I don't have a problem with it after I play the video.
No Jews, no gays. High up in the Ozark Hills in the state of Arkansas, dozens of people have been working hard, building houses and a new type of community. It's called Return to the Land, and it is a town open to white people only. They are millennials and Gen Z, and this is a new update of age-old prejudice.
What we've done here is establish a place where we have control over who our neighbors are, and that is just for the sake of preserving, you know, our culture.
And that culture, effectively, we're saying this is a white culture, a whites-only place.
White American culture.
But what this sounds like is bringing back segregation. Is that a fair assessment?
It's free association. So we're not trying to keep other people down. This is a small settlement in the middle of the Ozarks.
But they are being kept out, even if...
Well, I mean, you don't let everyone into your home.
Around 40 people live here. Hundreds more from across the world have paid to be members. And while the men do the physical labour, the women take care of the children who live here full time. It could be a very loving community if you're part of the community, but if you're black, or if you're Jewish, or if you're gay, They can't be part of that community.
They can have their own communities, and they already do.
You might be wondering how any of this can be legal. Return to the Land is structured as a private members association, which they believe allows them to discriminate on the basis of ethnicity, along with other factors. That has yet to be tested in the courts and may well fail. The Arkansas Attorney General has said his office is now reviewing the matter as a result of our reporting, and that there is no room for racial discrimination in Arkansas or anywhere in a free society.
This is why I canceled my DoorDash subscription.
Okay, that's not going to stand. That used to be the old-time way of maintaining segregated communities that went on all through the mid-'60s and got wiped out. The other thing is, as a matter of fact, I'm familiar with that area. There used to be a Boy Scout camp, and over the 15 years I was a Cub and Boy Scout master in the Memphis area, we'd take boys down there for a week. And candidly, the staff of the camp would say, be careful of your boys, they're black. So a lot of people that live around here have a very serious problem with that. So keep track of them, because we have had some incidents. And that would be like in 1982, 83, somewhere thereabouts, 84, 85. And that was a reality. So I can see this continuing because I recognize some of the topography there, including that tree line, and been there. But that's not going to be allowed to stand. You can't have, it's a covenant. And the U.S. Supreme Court said you can't have restricted covenants based on race or ethnicity. Flat out, hands down, no how, no way. Probably nobody's told them.
Well, I thought I had saved something here. Oh, this. So here's my thing of, I don't care. I mean, as long as you're not violating anybody else's civil rights, equal opportunities, or, violently attacking other groups or anyone, for that matter, because there are Black people who are doing the same thing, or Black people who are saying, we want our own land, or we want our own Black state or a Black city, as part of reparations. It somewhat would be the same thing. But if people do practice it, but they don't practice it in the name of white only. However, when you look at certain communities, let's just take the Jewish community in Brooklyn, right? In that community, there's nothing but a whole Jewish community, nobody from the outside. Now they own the building, so that means they get to say who can move in and stuff like that. So
they can't do that if it's a discrimination based on ethnicity, amongst other things.
Well, if it's religion, because I said Jewish,
they can't even do it based on religion.
Why do we have, and maybe we should just save this question to after I play this video, but why do we have these large Jewish communities, these large Muslim communities? We have communities where it's predominantly nothing but that group of people.
Because other people feel estranged from the general flavor of the neighborhood and don't want to be there. And nobody does anything about it, even though they could. See, the way this stuff got...
Let me just also throw it, because somebody reminded me in the chat, even the Amish community, only the Amish lives in that, on that particular land that they occupy. Maybe they own it, but yeah.
But see, in the Amish situation, there are other factors that sort of dictate who wants to live there. The way this stuff came to a head, you have to understand that you had a choice of living in the hood no matter how much money you made. And somebody next door to you had as a boyfriend a legitimate pimp, and she was one of his, well, she might have been his bottom hoe. And somebody across the street from you made a career of being a burglar. and somebody 2 doors down was a big time drug dealer. So you either stayed there with them and hope they didn't do something to you, or you had to move elsewhere. And when elsewhere had these restrictive covenants, see, there was nowhere for you to go or any options for you to exercise. That's how this stuff had the impetus to move along very quickly. It's just like you either stay in a place that's way below your income and educational level, or you are not to be restricted from moving out if it's your choice, because there's nowhere else to move to that they'll let you stay.
So I'm going to play this clip here.
You hear that? That is the sound of freedom.
Feels really amazing. I cry every time I come here.
Why were these two women interested in the prospect of buying a town in the first place?
We needed to create a space and a place where we could be a village again, a tribe again.
So Renee and Ashley reached out to family and friends, and together they bought what they intend to name Freedom, Georgia, a new black city. The owners hosted the big black campout over Labor Day weekend. Supporters drove in from across the country.
That is our vision, and to be able to pass this land down to my children and to the children that are represented by each of our 19 families as a piece of legacy. We're hoping to create legacy.
You hear that?
So
okay, the only way they could.
Well, let me just say this 2 things. I would say it's the same as the White Town, but it's slightly different. But go ahead.
The only way they could get away with this is declare the thing a condominium, and everybody is a co-owner of the same property. So the initial group that got in would be able to pass, perhaps with the right kind of lease agreement or residential agreement, the entirety of their interest down to relatives. But it would break down quickly if somebody with one of those interests sold that interest to somebody who was outside of the favored ethnic group. And the same thing would apply to them as to this town down in the Ozarks.
So here's the thing why I say it's the same, but it's different, because you are creating a community of likeness. But the difference
makes no difference.
But the difference is where I'm seeing it is the White Town only. They are saying we don't want anyone from the outside coming in trying to, rent an apartment, buy a home if they're building homes on that particular land. To whereas this particular, with the black families buying land and creating a town, they're not saying that they're going to prohibit anyone outside of black being allowed to come in. They're not going to. Whereas the other White Town, what they're trying to establish their White Town, they want to prohibit other people other than white for coming in.
No, see, they could get away with it for a short while if they all went in as co-purchasers of properties that could be used as a residential property. So only that group of people bought into what would be a condominium. The problem would come in if anybody sold his or her interest in the condominium to anybody else because of economic hardship, opportunity, moving to another location, whatever. They could not discriminate against the purchasers based on ethnic considerations. So that would quickly break that up. I understand what they're doing, it just won't work.
For who? For the White Town?
For the black group. In other words, do you know what a condominium is? In other words, everybody that lives in that building is a co and equal owner of a equal share of the property rights. Now, if one group of, say, 100 people said, let's all buy 40 acres of land and come up with a 100-person condominium, well, they could go in and buy it. That's just one purchase. But if any one of the people entitled to property rights in that condominium decides to sell their interest, then they cannot impose an ethnic condition. The original group can do whatever they want to determine who's in that original group to acquire the property interest. But if any one person is a tenant in common, sells their property interest to anybody else, they cannot discriminate on who they sell it to.
Well, the black, you're talking about the white town, because the black people.
No, I'm talking about the black folk.
Yeah, but they weren't
can't
doing that. They weren't doing that.
That's what they effectively were doing. They were all going in as a group and buying this property. And they would all be equal owners of the property. No problem. They're what they call tenants in common. Now, if one of the tenants in common sells his interest to anybody else, that sale cannot have as a predicate anything to do with ethnicity. This is how there was so much loss.
Let me stop. Meaning that if I sell my condo or my piece of land,
not your condo, your interest.
If I sell my interest, I could sell it to anyone other than black.
No, you can sell it to black, but you can't make the requirement be black.
Okay, which is what people do now. They do that now.
Yeah. In other words, 100 people buy a property. They're all tenants in common to the property. They can do that. 100, anybody can contract together to do whatever they want. But if one person out of the 100, leaving 99 others, decides to sell their interest, they cannot use ethnicity as a basis for the sale to another party. So in other words, it would work.
So you cannot do it on paper, even though people do it. They don't do that on paper because it's illegal, but they do it to where they personally would sell it to someone that's black, as opposed to someone that is white or other.
No,
they won't give the reason of ethnicity. That's not the reason why they was selling it to this person.
But it's like this: 40 acres of land are put up for sale. If 100 people said, let's go buy that 40 acres and we can all live there, they can do whatever they want to on the front end to acquire the joint property interest. But if anybody sells their share of the property interest, they cannot discriminate based on ethnicity. Now, as a practical matter, a version of that is why there was such a great loss in air property in the South. Great-grandmama or great-great-granddaddy had this farm. He might have acquired 60 acres. So when he dies, it passes on, and then what winds up happening is you've got cousins and aunts, so you've got 110 people with an interest in this, say, 60 to 80 or 100 acres of land. Well, somebody decided to move away. He doesn't like the family anyway, but he's got an interest in this property because he inherited it. He lives in Detroit, and he's a little down and out because he lost his job when the automotive plant, say Ford or Chrysler he works for, or American Motors, downsized or went out of business, so he needs cash. So he's contacted by developers just like, do you own the property on so-and-so? Are you interested in selling your property? He gets contacted and he says, yeah, sure, I need the money. So he sells it to somebody, a developer, and the developer now has an undivided percentage of that property. If the heir who had 7% sold him his 7%, now this big time multi-million-dollar developer has the same 7% interest in this property with granddad, grandmom, who inherited from great, and all of these people are now mixed in with others who want to develop the property, and they can go into court and mandate that their interests are protected by developing the property, and they can commit themselves to stuff that the other people can't afford to buy in, so they buy them out. Now they own the property. And in 1976, the property, you may had 28% of the county was owned by black folk. Now it drops down to 3 and 4% because of this kind of thing.
Okay. That's it.
Okay, good show. Now, are we off?
No, we're not off yet. Give me a second. Let me put up the outro. Yeah, that's that. Thank you to Alonzo. He sent in a super chat. Remember, it takes a crook to know a crook. Telling projection. Thank you. And I found this funny.
Al-Sharpton and the bunch. Yeah.
Yeah. Zav Banga says Dana got the chat tight. Yes, honey, I sure did. They tight. Y'all been tight the whole show. And if you don't know, I'm about to tell you, I don't give a fuck if you tight. I want be tight, air out your grievances in the chat. Do what you gotta do and keep it moving. And Donna says, why are people announcing their departure? Just leave. Dana does not care. I sure don't. I sure know. They're calling you an elderly. Y'all keep thinking this man is so elderly and weak.
Hey, fuck off. No.
Yeah, I have no idea. So yeah. But yeah, thank you, Judge. Thank you very much for this break. Thank you, Christina. Thank you, guys. Like I said, I'm going to be on vacation. Got to visit family, and I may just pop up, do a random live. I don't know, but I still want to do the X space tomorrow night because that could be anywhere. So yeah. So everybody have a wonderful week. Thank you, Judge, as always, and we will see you guys next Monday. Bye. Say bye, Judge.
Bye.
All right.
Now, are we off?